Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. First item on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment? Being no public comment, the next item is a review of minutes of March 20th, 2019. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for March 20th, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes for March 20th, 2019. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Two small edits. Under annual town meeting warrant, it says that this year will be my first town meeting. Last year was my first town meeting. I just want to make sure that was clear. And secondly, under town administrator ethics disclosure, in the second line it says it's just missing a word. I just want to make it clear the Selectman Sergeant did leave the meeting. It says Selectman Sergeant the meeting. It's just missing a word there.
Thank you, Selectman Carrington.
Okay, any other comment? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, the motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is the town administrator ethics disclosure for the sealers and weights and measures appointment. The selectmen requested an opinion from town solicitor on the conflict of interest disclosure by the town administrator due to a member of the Board of Selectmen becoming an applicant for the sealer of weights and measures position in Clinton. The Board of Selectmen need to make a determination whether the town administrator can participate in this appointment due to the relationship with the candidate. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since the last issue, if you recall, the last meeting I talked about the potential issue under Chapter 268A, Section 21, which provides that if a member of the Board of Selectmen is seeking a position that is both appointed and supervised by the board, then that member would have a conflict of interest and would have to resign from the board. Based upon my conversations with the Ethics Commission, there's still some gray area on the appointment, whether it's the Board of Selectmen who has the appointment or the town administrator through the special legislation. But what is clear is that really the second part, the supervision. The supervision of the position of sealer of weights and measures is through the town administrator, not the Board of Selectmen. So here, if a member of the Board of Selectmen wants to seek the position of sealer of weights and measures, he does not have to recuse himself from the board because of that, because he would not be supervised by the Board of Selectmen. He would be supervised by the town administrator. So the opinion here, and the Ethics Commission concurred, that there would be no need for the member of the board to have to be resigned for 30 days before he could be seek that position. So the member could stay on as a member of the Board of Selectmen. He would have to make certain disclosures under Statute 268A, as with the town administrator, but there'd be no need to resign at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Sergeant.
Mr. Chairman, my fellow board members, as you know, I have applied for the open position for sealer of weights and measures for the town of Clinton. I've been in contact with the State Ethics Commission and the town solicitor for a legal opinion as to whether or not I can be a candidate for this position while I am an elected member of the Board of Selectmen. Both have indicated that I do not need to resign as a board member unless I was selected for that position. However, to avoid even an appearance of a conflict, I have decided to submit my resignation as a member of the Clinton Board of Selectmen effective Thursday, April 4th, 2019. My 3 years on Board of the Selectmen was due to terminate this June 10th, 2019. When I ran for Selectman 9 years ago, I promised the citizens of Clinton that I would base all my decisions as a board member on what was the best interest for the town of Clinton. During these past 9 years I have served as a selectman, I have worked hard to keep this promise and to make a positive impact in the Clinton community. I wish to thank my fellow board members, both present and past, for their steadfast commitment to the town of Clinton and for their help, their guidance, and their support they have shown me during my last 9 years as a selectman. I also wish to thank the elected appointed officials who have helped me perform my duties and responsibilities over these past 9 years, especially Town Administrator Michael Ward and Selectman Executive Assistant Joyce Capizzaro. And lastly, and most importantly, I want to thank the citizens of Clinton for their faith and confidence they have placed in me by electing me to three-year terms on the Clinton Board of Selectmen. I am grateful and humble to have served the citizens of Clinton these past 9 years, and thank you for the honor and privilege for allowing me to serve as your selectman these past 9 years. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Does anyone have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank Selectman Sargent for his steadfast, diligent service to the community and always advocating for his point of view for the interests of the taxpayers as a whole of the community. And I also want to thank him personally for his friendship and his support over the years we've served together.
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll echo those comments. Our occasional policy differences aside, there's never been any doubt where Dave stands as far as his affection and dedication for this town, and we've been lucky to have him for this long. On a personal note, when I decided to run for this board, he was one of the first to reach out and offer support, and that's been steadfast. So I probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for his support, and it's a debt I will owe him forever.
Thank you, Sean.
Anything else? All right, well, I would like to say, David, next June, it will be the end of this term that I'm presently serving. I will have served on the Board of Selectmen for 15 years. And while I have always enjoyed the company of all the boards of selectmen that I've served on, this board, comprising of yourself, the people that are sitting here with me today, and also Jim LeBlanc, who chose not to run a couple of years back, has been, in my opinion, the most productive board that I've ever sat on. And furthermore, it is a board that handles the issues of the town without rancor, without anger, without backbiting, and even when you lose a vote, there's no you never held it against anyone, and neither have the rest of us. So I want to thank you for your contribution to the success of the boards that you have been in. It's been a pleasure serving with you, and I would just say I think you made the right decision. It puts Michael in an awkward position to be interviewing a person who is in effect his supervisor, and I think it was the honorable and honest thing to do. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for your years of service.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, I just want to wish
Yeah.
Selectman Sargent obviously the best in his endeavors. I think I agree with Mike, the chairman. Obviously, I think that was the best thing to do for the board and for everyone involved in the town. So I wish you the best in the future and your past 9 years. We didn't always see eye to eye, but we both were, I think, you were doing the best. Obviously, what you thought was for the town, so no one can knock you for that. I wish you the best.
Thank you, Mark.
That it?
Yeah.
All
If I
set?
could, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, if I could just say thank to Mr. Sargent as well for his friendship and support of my position in the office throughout all these years as chair and working closely together, and as a member. It's been a really pleasant experience, so thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Next item on the agenda, we have the Parks and Recreation Commission here. What do you,
Is this for the
This is for the
Sounded-
Brody
Memorial? Yeah. Yeah, Parks and Recreation Commission, the Brody Memorial donation. So the Parks and Recreation Commission has requested to meet with the selectmen to discuss a donation by the family of David Brody of a bronze sculpture for Central Park. And if you would just introduce yourself before you speak, that would be appreciated. And I'll turn,
Eddie Varia.
I'll turn the meeting over to you guys.
Great. Does it matter which one we're talking to? Ioana Osborne, 180 Main Street, also Vice Chair of Parks and Rec. And before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you, Selectman Sargent, as well, for your fervor truly demonstrated all these years, your dedication and your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think part of the component tonight we want to share with you is going to be handled, the more specific details are going to be shared by Facility Director Russell Carlstad. But we're going to talk a little bit about why this is even in front of us. Because, as we all know, Central Park is a very precious resource to Clinton and its townspeople, and of course we're the stewards as Parks and Recreation, and we take it very seriously. We maintain it, but we also take it very seriously when someone comes to us and says we want to put something there. In fact, the last time we had to consider doing this was the World War I monument, which was brought before us by the American Legion, and that was a very unique situation because the monument already existed when it came to us. This is different. The Brody family, the Van Brody family, forgive me, I'm not from Clinton originally,
I
so
think it's the Brody family.
the Brody, forgive me, I'm a transplant, I have to confess, so I wasn't here when this family was originally historically here, and so I came in very late to this story, and so I had to come up on a moving freight train with this, and but it's part of the history of what Clinton is today. So it helps to hear these stories from people who have lived here for a long time and their families started here many generations ago, which is why we appreciated several meetings ago when two very favorite sons of Clinton, at that moment, private citizen Bill Connolly came to our meeting, and also town historian Terry Engano, who is well known for the wealth of information he has. And at that time, both gentlemen shared bits of information that helped us understand why Mr. Brody's background was so significant. Because again, we hesitate to put anything in Central Park, particularly when a family comes to us and says, we want to put a memorial monument there. Doesn't everyone? So we didn't understand. I mean, I personally, as a resident of only 19 years here, says, and who is this person? So that's my first reaction. But as we heard the stories unfold and we read the information packet that came forward, clearly this family and the history that they influenced here and the manufacturing history that they had a hand in, again, the Weetabix company and how they started all of that, and the influence economically here as well. They had such an influence here. But I have to tell you personally, the one thing that really sunk it for me was when, let me just find my comment here, when I think it was Bill who said that Mr. Brody was the Gordon Langton of Clinton before Gordon Langton came along, and that did it for me. So at that moment, you know, we're very careful about what we put in Central Park. So we do have, in fact, a policy that we need to create about what goes there and why, and because there's only so much space, and we're very careful about putting any kind of structure that isn't 360 degrees visible. So when Mr. Carlstad comes forward and explains what that's about, you'll understand why we were presented with a choice that the family had, and that we were invited to share in that, and we totally accepted what they presented to us. So I think, Russ, would you like to share what that is, or? And also where it's going to go. That's.
Good evening, Russ Carlstad, Facilities Director for the town. I got asked to come in and look at the possibilities of putting a sculpture into the park, knowing some of the history. I let Parks and Rec lead the way on this one. I'm here for the technical aspect of it, and they're here for your approval. Now, you had gotten some renderings or some pictures of the park. I'm going to bring you up the full picture of it. I didn't have enough copies for everyone. So it's basically two children playing, and evidently Mr. Brody had a really soft spot for the children in town. And that's what precipitated this whole request by his family. Now, the location of the sculpture, the commission determined it to be where I think it's an elm tree that's dying, right by the intersection on the sidewalks in the park.
In the center?
And so that tree has to come down. There's a mounded area around it, so that would all have to come out. And the intention is to take some of the unusable granite that's over at the DPW, and Chris McGowan has agreed to donate some, lay it on the flat, sort of replicate an old world streetscape, and then securely mount the sculptures on top of that at grade level. So the family is in agreement with that prospect, and they're ready to move forward with the purchase as soon as we get approval, or if we get approval, and we can move ahead and schedule the work on the site.
Can you also define the height of how, in perspective or in relationship to other things around it? Because I think it's something like 4 feet, isn't it?
Yeah, they're children. They're about child height, middle school. I don't know. I think it's about 36 to 41 inches tall. I can't remember exactly.
I've got it right here.
Yeah, the dimensions
it?
are right
Okay.
here, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
good, okay.
the girl with pigtails is 37.5 inches
Good
high
news.
by 29 inches wide by 18 inches deep. The boy is 39 inches high by 32 inches wide by 18 inches deep. And the oldest girl is 41 inches high, 32 inches wide, and 20 inches deep.
Right, that's
So,
about it, yeah.
About the
So,
size of,
the
yeah.
kid. So if the board decides that they want to approve this, we can get started pretty quickly on putting materials together, clearing the site, putting the granite down, and having the sculpture purchased and shipped to us for installation. It's not a very complicated process.
The other thing that really impressed us about, one of our board members was saying it's really nice to have a structure like this as opposed to just putting a tree there for someone, because trees can die and have to be replaced, but a structure like this is really very permanent, and it lasts for a long time. So that's another thing that impressed us about trying to honor a person of significance like this.
And it is meant to be interactive. The family totally intended it for it to be interactive. That's why it's at ground level. That's why there's no guards around it or anything to that effect. There is a existing light pole on the other side of the sidewalk. We'd add a security light on it at nighttime so it can be seen, so no one can, or less chance of it being messed with during off hours.
Okay. Thank you. Now, so this requires our approval?
No, it doesn't.
No,
It
we
does not.
actually, we approved it in our
Oh, good, okay.
format. We just wanted to introduce it to you, bring it to you, to your attention from our board. It's nice to have all our board members present too, which we wanted to do that.
Okay. Does any member of the board have any questions or any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment. I just wanted to thank the commission for bringing it to our attention. I want to obviously thank the Brody family for the memorial. I think it's a beautiful donation, and
It is. And we don't
Thank
often
them.
get something like this
Yeah.
where if somebody comes forward and wants to pay for everything and honor their family member like this, who was so significant to Clinton to begin with, so.
just goes to show you someone from Clinton who made it big, went on the other side of the country and didn't
Yep.
forget his roots. So just very appreciative that
Yeah.
they're thinking of us and made the donation. I
Yeah.
think it's very nice.
I think we'll have some kind of ceremony when the time is right,
Absolutely,
too.
yeah. Yeah, well deserved.
Invite you all.
absolutely. Yeah. That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Chair.
two quick questions.
Mhm.
Will there be a plaque explaining what it is?
I believe we have something like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the commission is discussing that at their meetings, to have a plaque created. It would be ground mounted.
Yep.
Securely fastened. Just the terminology and the verbiage on it is yet to be decided by the commission.
And you're taking a tree down to put this in?
We're taking the tree down no matter what, because it's dying.
Are there plans to replace the tree?
Excuse me?
Are there plans to replace it?
We have about, how many?
I think there's been a donation of 10 that we are not paying for. The Worcester Tree Initiative is something we just voted on at our last meeting, giving them permission to grant us 10 trees that we're putting strategically around Clinton in different parks, and several to going to Central Park. We've had a rash of diseased trees that had to come down, let alone the one that came down in the middle of that storm, or not it, but the part of it. So there will be strategically placed wherever, and I believe we decided part of that at our last meeting.
Terrific, thank you.
Mr. Clement?
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Parks and Recreation for the courtesy of coming here
Thank you.
and presenting this to us and informing us of what's going on. But it is clear that there's no question this is a decision of Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
They don't need Board of Selectmen approval. I also want to make it clear because people watching may not really know what is really being talked about here. I'd love to see if we could get this up on the screen somehow. But we're not talking about a memorial to David Brody. We're talking about a donation in memory of the Brody family.
Yeah, I
And,
probably used that term the wrong way.
Well, it's just, I don't want people to get the idea that Central Park's being turned into
Right.
a cemetery or a
Yeah, it
memorial
can't be.
for the chosen few. It's a very generous donation from the Brody family, and it's being given in the same spirit that a number of other trees and other
Right.
donations have been made to Central Park with a ground-mounted plaque that identifies who it's in memory of.
Eddie Verrier. As far as this project is going, just want you to be aware that the Parks and Rec, we're basically going to do the whole project ourselves. We're going to do all the excavation, we're going to do the compaction for the granite slabs. We're going to install the granite slabs probably with the help of the DPW. And we also will mount the three little ladies to the granite. So basically, we're handling the whole project.
Great.
Save money. It's our motto.
Anyone else? Well, I'm very happy to hear that you're going forward with this. David Brody was as Billy said, was Gordon Langton of 20, 30, 50 years ago. The factories helped a lot of Clinton people work their way through college. A lot of kids worked their summers through college. And he was always a great advocate for the town and a great contributor to the town. So we're very happy to hear that you're doing this.
On a lighter note, we seem to be acquiring the offspring of other public servants in our department. We have our recreation manager is the daughter of the esteemed Stephen Mendoza, who used to sit on your board, and the granddaughter of Vice Chairman Esteban Mendoza, Rosa Carrot. And also one of our board members, John Baird, is the son of David Baird. So if you guys have any grandchildren or children you'd like to throw in our direction to continue working for us, we love that. Just saying.
Okay. My grandchildren are the size of this statue, so
Okay, so
otherwise I'd have sent them over.
just keep feeding them.
Sorry, step on
We'll now proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is the fiscal year 2018 budget hearings. First budget that's up for review is the Veterans Services budget. Mr. Bailey?
Evening,
Hello?
Brendan?
this will be a lot quicker than that, I guarantee.
Well, you don't know, we may have a lot of questions for you.
No. All right, so my level funded one is just that. It's keeping everything the same. My actual, proposed 2020 would be to reduce the veterans' benefits by another $20,000. So this is my fourth year. So 3 years ago, I reduced it by $100,000 comfortably, I thought, and then last year 80, and even now by going down another 20, I'm still pretty comfortable with that. I have no concerns, about reducing it by another 20 and leaving it at 200,000. This year I had 2020 for 220,000, and I still have a couple months left, and I still would like to put something into some of the monuments, but it would still leave me a couple bucks to turn back to the town. So reducing by 20,000 is I'm very comfortable with that. It's not going to hurt me. I do need an increase of $500 in the miscellaneous. Now, when veterans file claims, we've been using kind of an old way where I'd scan them and email them up to Boston, and they would take. They're kind of like a liaison between there and the federal government. They've come up with a web-based system. It's been online for about a year and a half. When it came online, I was in the middle of a fiscal year, so I didn't purchase it. And then last year, I kind of waited to see if there was any glitches in it. rather than get kind of wrapped up into it. But it's the way to go, and now they prefer that. And if I don't do it that way, I can't really track, right? But if I get this web base, I could upload it from here, and I could track a veteran's claim just from, from my office. Right now, I'd have to call Boston, and they gotta kind of go do the work for me. And all this towns, the city of towns are going to it, so it's a $500 a year kind of rent for it, or lease on that system. My Memorial Day fund, I get $49.82. I'm good with that. Every other year, we do have to pay for the Harvard band, which I forget which year we're on right now, but the years I have it, I'm good. And when I don't have to pay them, I use it to replace markers and flag holders and stuff like that. And that's where I'm at.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board with regard to the Veteran Services budget?
Just keep up the good work, Brenny. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, Brendan.
Again, another year's gone by. I just completed my 4th year, and I do want to thank all the members of the board and Mike Ward and Joyce and Mr. Gibbons for the support as the year goes on. And Dave, it stinks to see you go. I'm trying to find a good word to say, but I appreciate all your support since I've been here. And anyway, thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, Brent. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, Brenny.
I'd just like to say that Mr. Bailey's budget looks to be about $17,000 less this year.
Every year I'm giving money
I'm
back.
telling you.
Just put that in. I'm the only one who
Good
does
work,
You should be on the finance committee.
See ya.
Building inspector is the next budget to be reviewed. Is the building inspector here?
Yes, he is.
How do you do, Mr. Shaughnessy? How are you?
Sam.
Sam.
Jim Salmon, the building inspector.
Salmon. I don't know why I said Shaughnessy. I'm related to the Salmons. You'd think I would have said it right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. We're about $250 left in our expenses than we were last year, and we've acquired a new building inspector's car, courtesy of the police department. Chief Levenger donated one of the used cruisers to us, and we've had that painted, and it's now in service, and at no cost to the town so far. So that looks good.
Any questions?
Any questions?
I don't have any questions, no, sir.
No, I mean,
I just, again, I want to compliment another public servant for coming in with a budget that's less than the previous year's budget.
I don't think it has anything to do with me, but
Take the credit.
Yeah, when you can.
You'll get the blame when it changes.
Yeah, that's right. 50-50.
no other questions?
No.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salmon.
Thank you, Jim.
See you, Jim.
Town clerk. Town clerk's not here?
Mr. Chair, if I could, the town clerk wasn't able to make it tonight, but she just wanted to pass on that, again, talking about reducing budgets, based on the fewer elections in this upcoming new fiscal year, there was just a substantial decrease in her budget as well, and I think most of the other line items were fairly consistent. So if you needed any additional information, Holly Sargent indicated that, she'd provide the board whatever they wanted, but if you were able to just go on her paper submission,
Okay.
that she was okay with that.
All right, and it appears that budget is about $12,000 less than last year. So we're always happy to hear that. Is there anyone here from the board? The Board of Health is next. Is anybody here from?
No, Mr. Chair, the Board of Health did
I
have.
thought what I'd do is, if they're not here, I'd call the people who are.
Right, and the Board of Health had a conflict, and they asked if they could come to the 17th, April
Okay,
17th.
so we'll
they would like to come and speak to the board, so if they could do it the next meeting would be.
So we'll table the Board of Health budget. Okay. So with the approval of the board, we'll table that budget, and we'll go to the Animal Control Officer. Sir?
Gentlemen?
Welcome.
So the floor is yours.
I'll take it. At least the rug. My report is basically I have the same expenses as last year. However, I will prepare you for a budget increase next year because I'll be through with my barn that I'm preparing, which is 30 by 50 foot. Be preparing it for the Clinton animal control emergency management, whereby I'm stockpile, I've already got 60, 70 crates for cats, dogs, various and sundry pets for Clinton. Should we experience a hurricane, tornado, whatever the disaster might be, flooding. I have a quarter of my total outline of what I need so far. I will have it all by the time next year's budget is ready.
Okay. Any questions from members of the board?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman, from my earliest days on the board.
I'm sorry, could you speak a little?
From my earliest days on the board, one of the most frequent calls or complaints that I received had to do with animal control issues. And since your tenure has started, my phone hasn't rung in that regard. So thank you for what you must be doing something right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to echo what Mr. Conley says, having been on the board for 15 years. Animal control issues used to be a frequent complaint that one would hear, and since you have been our animal control officer, I think I've gotten one call, which was not really a complaint, just one of those persons who felt that if you wanted to get anything done, you had to call a member of the Board of Selectmen and just wanted to relay a message. So you've been doing an excellent job, and we do appreciate it. And thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Fullerfield Commission, Mr. Kovas, how are you?
Excellent, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Excellent.
Would you like to tell us anything?
I submitted the budget for this upcoming year, and there are a couple things that were of concern. One of them is the pit where the valves are located for the water main. It sits down about 6 feet, and Mr. Carlstad has advised the caretaker to no longer go down in that pit out of life safety concerns. I had submitted an optimistic proposal for the raising of the valves to at least ground level, and we received a quote in return, which was actually going to be 3 times what I was hoping it would be. In speaking with Mr. Carlstad, he said that in one way or another, it has to be done, whether it's done through a town warrant or through our budget for the upcoming year. And in the meantime, he had suggested that we have a local contractor turn the valves on in the meantime, instead of having the caretaker go down in the pit. The second thing would be looking at the heating of the field house. 2 years in a row, we've winterized it, and 2 years in a row, some of the pipes have broke. So we've contacted Whitney Heating to take a look, and we have to begin the reparations for for whatever the damage is. Hopefully, it's not extensive. Last year, I think it was about $1,500 to do. So one of the options that we had spoke to Mr. Carlstad about was possibly seeing what we can do about either repairing the heating that's in the field house to keep the temperatures above freezing, or is there something that we might be able to implement that would keep the pipes from freezing in the future? Those were the two big ticket items.
Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the board?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just a point of clarification. So the 5,000 listed here, is that a temporary thing, and we're
That's what I was naively hoping it would be, but it came, the first quote that I've received came back as $17,700.
Okay.
So I had spoke with the finance committee about providing the 3 quotes for them.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you may be amending this budget?
Yes. Well,
Or
we'll
you're
shift
going
it
to-
around. The budget will stay where it is, and then we'll just have to, some of the things that we've included in there, I had put down as a level 3 priority, whereas, you know, we'll address the level 1 and level 2 priority, and then, you know, so the budget will essentially.
And I think
Well, but what I want to say
well-
is that if you need money to fix these things, it either has to be in the budget or you have to do a warrant article.
Warrant article.
I'm sure
Right.
Michael can help you with
Right,
that.
right, Mr. Chair, just to follow up on that, you're right, it has to be some funding mechanism, but I think as Mr. Cobus and the Fuller Field Commission were highlighting this need, the facility director is also including it in a capital plan that he's
Okay.
gonna be presenting. So whether it would be funded as an article in mass for capital work, or whether it be funded specifically for the Fuller Field, I think that'll be worked out and discussed between the board.
Okay,
and
but
the
there is
finance-
something in the
finance
works
committee.
too.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly,
Okay.
yep. So Mr. Cobus has highlighted it, but Mr. Carlstad also has it as part of the capital budget, too.
Okay, all right, very good. Any other questions or comments?
I don't know.
Mr. Cobus, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just want to thank
Sure.
Mr. Cobus for taking the time to attend our meeting and present the budget and be here for questions. It's very helpful.
Absolutely, my
And-
pleasure, I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming
And
in.
some of the difficulties we've run into have been as a result of people not coming to this hearing. And that's one of the reasons I brought up the issue about the warrant article, or it had to be in the budget. In the past, we've received the budget, and it's very much like this, and then 6 months later, people say to us, well, this is broken, you didn't fix it.
Right.
Well, you didn't ask for the money, we didn't know it was broken. So I'm glad to see that you're on top of things.
Head in the right direction, and I've learned that this go-round, to have the quotes instead of, but it was basically by, you know, by word of mouth, that this is what we would estimate, you know, it to be, and then, that, you know, so going forward, I'll make sure to have the paperwork to support
Okay.
the proposed budget. Thank you, man.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, just to wrap up with budgets, we were looking to try to set a date of next Wednesday, if that's amenable to the members, to have a joint meeting with the school committee and finance committee and board of selectmen to review the school budget, as the board does every year. But also, we'd like to add to that a presentation by the facilities director as well. So the board can certainly, selectmen could have an individual meeting with them, but I thought where those 3 interested parties would like to maybe just be open for any comments or discussion or between the 3 major boards as to how we're going to go forward with that department. And then, you know, each board, well, not each, but the finance and selectmen could have Mr. Carlstad in to go into further detail. But I think Russ was going to kind of do an overview of where he's at this point and where he sees his vision for this new department going forward July 1. So we're finalizing a time. It'd probably be maybe around 6:30 or so next Wednesday, if that works for everybody. I'll be sending out a notice probably tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Mike.
Next item is administrative business. The administrative business, we have late night closings. The following establishments are requesting late night closings for Saturdays in the month of April: Clem's Liberty Tavern, Clinton Turn Marine, Crystal Cafe, Old Timer, Ringside Cafe, the Simple Man Saloon, and the Spruce Street Tavern. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the late night closings for the facilities listed. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Town hall use events, the following, well, there is one application for the use of the Fallon Memorial Auditorium, and that is for the Clinton Middle School 8th grade recognition ceremony on June 6th, 2019. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we grant the Clinton Middle School 8th grade recognition on June 6, 2019.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to grant a use of the Town Hall Memorial Auditorium to the Clinton Middle School 8th grade recognition ceremony. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. We have a request for a raffle permit. The Clinton Turned Verena is requesting a raffle permit to host fundraising events for their organization. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the raffle permit for Turner Hall.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the raffle permit for Turner Hall. Is there any discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Next on to old and new business. EOEA, Executive Office of Environmental, what is it?
Remediation.
It's Energy and Environmental Affairs.
Okay, Energy and Environmental Affairs. All right, good. They changed it
Yeah.
since I was in state government.
did.
They changed them every 4 years, so you don't know what
I
to call
know,
them.
there are too many E's, you know?
Yeah. So this is a grant for environmental remediation in Clinton. This is appropriated $35,000 for environmental remediation work on town-owned land at 329 High Street, formerly Jean's Auto. Is Mr. Duffy here, or are you going to stand in?
Yeah, I think Mr. Duffy was at the planning board, and he was going to come up here as soon as he could, so I don't know if you want to put it at the
Go out of the order.
end of the meeting and see if he can get here in
All right.
time, so.
Want to make a motion to go?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see anything complicated in this request. It's just
Yeah.
asking for our approval of the scope of services, and unless
Get this
the
get
other
it cleaned up.
members want a more detailed
Right.
presentation.
I
Pretty
don't have a
self-explanatory.
problem going forward with it. I mean, it's money that's well needed
Okay.
for that site, so.
Make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the scope of services submitted by the Economic Development Director.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the scope of services submitted by the Economic Development Director for the environmental remediation work at 329 High Street. There any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Michael, do you have any idea on timing on this?
It would probably have to be done by June 30th, so it's something that would be moving forward on. There was an agreement that we need to send back to the state to accept the money, but they were requiring attached scope of services.
Yep.
So now that this is completed, we could send that back this week, and once we get the approval to proceed, I think we're looking to get it done by the end of the fiscal year.
Terrific. Thank you.
Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is a National Grid Service Agreement for the S5 LED Streetlight Tariff. National Grid has submitted a service agreement to convert existing streetlights in Clinton to S5 tariff rate for the LED conversion project. The town of Clinton will install LED lamps for energy savings on National Grid poles, and the municipality will be responsible for maintenance of the new lights. So, Michael, if you would edify us further on this?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. As the board knows, we have a project to convert all our streetlights, our overhead streetlights, over to LED. As part of that project, we're getting some grants from the state, as well as reimbursements from National Grid for the energy efficiency. We have been able to secure some funding through an environmental settlement agreement from the MWRA that contributed to some controllers for this project, so that we can now buy controllers for the lights, which will allow us to monitor those lights, that the lights will speak to us and tell us when they're out and they need to be repaired. We can also add things to those controllers, like video cameras or other type of software that can monitor other things. These devices can also help in the smart cities going into the future. If there's things that are being done, whether monitoring downtown parking or myriad things that governments are looking at for this smart cities grid, we will then be prepared to move forward on that. Part of the whole project is that the town will now be owning and maintaining these lights. The current lights right now, we own, but National Grid maintains. So because there is spec from National Grid, these lights will now be not part of National Grid's inventory, so we will be required to maintain them. So we're on an S2 rate right now, where we own, they maintain, and we'll be moving to an LED S5 rate, where we'll own and we'll maintain. So we have our own private contractor who will be installing these lights. It was all done through a consortium RFP through the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, who is administering the grant on behalf of EOEEA, through them as well too. Once we get that up and running, we would then probably have to procure for a company to take care of the lights whenever they're out. So in order for us to work on National Grid poles, they require that we approve this agreement, which is two things. One is requirements that we have to do when working on the poles, and secondly is acknowledging that it will be the S5 rate now. Town solicitor has reviewed and pointed out a couple of aspects of the agreement that we should be aware of. However, we probably don't have a lot of wiggle room if we want to do the project and get the savings. These are requirements that National Grid has made and all the other communities that have gone this route, and they kind of, hold all the cards. It's their poles, and if we want to work on their poles, I guess we have to conform to their requirements. So I don't know if the town solicitor wanted to add.
I mean, it's essentially a license agreement because they own the pole, so it's and of course they set forth the terms, and we have some experience in my office on behalf of other towns, and most of the terms are non-negotiable. It's, National Grid.
Mandatory.
It's, either accept it or you don't accept it. And of course, if you don't, then the program doesn't move forward. And the provisions aren't, and I've highlighted them for the town administrator. There's only one that kind of caught our eye, and this has been consistent with all the municipalities that have these agreements with National Grid, is they want the town has to carry $5 million of insurance, for the benefit of National Grid in case something happens with they're working the pole and someone gets injured or something happens or there's property damage. And so Grid wants to make sure that insurance is there, to protect them. So Michael did get a quote. The quote was actually pretty reasonable to add to our policy because we already have a pretty good policy. So that was an added expense. So we're getting the savings, but at the same time we have to have the insurance. But there's no way around it. They're making all municipalities that enter these agreements have the same level of insurance, $5 million. So
Pretty much mandatory.
absolutely, the Grid won't budge on it. What I mean, they won't reduce it. They're sticking to it. So.
All right. So, any questions from members of the board for Michael? Or what's the pleasure of the board with regard to the service agreement for the S5 LED streetlight Tariff?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the board approve and authorize the town administrator to execute the contract with National Grid.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded to authorize the town administrator to enter into this agreement with National Grid. Is there any discussion?
Just a quick under discussion, I think this is going to be a really good thing for the town of Clinton. These lights are going to be much brighter, throw much more light. Currently, there's been issues of, street lights going out and not, I don't want to throw anyone on the bus, but National Grid not repairing in quick time. So I think us maintaining them and getting these new lights in there, I think it's going to be a good benefit for the town. So I strongly support it. I think it's good.
Anything else?
Just to add, part of the project that if we get this back to National Grid tomorrow and they're okay with everything, we can turn around. We have a tentative start date of Monday, April 8th for the contractor to actually be in town to start doing the conversion. So if at the very least it might be pushed out a couple days, but our hope is to start next week.
So, we're going to the new rate, the S5 LED rate, and that will save us money over the current rate.
Right.
Even with the $5 million.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
I think the $5 million policy, because as Mr. Gibbons indicated, we already have a decent coverage through Maya. So with the added umbrella policy, it was about, I want to say maybe, I forget exactly, but around $2,500, maybe $2,300, $2,500
A year?
And we're expecting tens of thousands of dollars of savings with the LED lights,
Okay.
just for the energy efficiency of it, so.
All right. Any other questions or comments? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. The recycling committee recently met and, among other things, would like to present an update to the fee schedule for the Clinton Recycling Center for the cost of mattress removal. The current cost is $5, 2 stickers per mattress, and was based on a grant from the Department of Environmental Protection that paid for costs of disposal. However, this grant has ended, and the total cost of the town of Clinton is now $13 per mattress, plus trucking charge. The committee is recommending the mattress fee be increased to $17.50. That's 7 stickers to cover the cost of this service. Michael or Mark?
Well, no, I mean, I wasn't able to attend this last
Oh,
meeting,
that's
but I
right, you
read
weren't
it.
at that meeting.
But I read this, and I think it's still pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, the last one was, obviously, we had the grant, was $5. So, I mean, that was, to me, I mean, a real bargain. I don't think too many places were taking mattresses and box springs for $5. So even this being raised to $17.50, a person getting 7 stickers to get rid of a mattress, I think it's still a good deal. I support it. I think it's good, and also like to, well, I'll wait till we're under discussion, but I'd make a motion that we accept it.
Second.
Motion's made and accepted to accept the recommendation of the recycling committee to increase the fee for mattresses to $17.50. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just to add again, as we talked at the committee, certainly through this grant, it was a big help, and it really, I think, brought, some regional participation from around the region because it was so cheap. And that was the intent, was to make sure these mattresses are getting to the right places and not on the side of the roads. But with the $13 per mattress, would probably fit, I think maybe between, around 45 mattresses per load, plus the trucking charge. It's probably running about $700 per load to get rid of them now. So that'll start to add up quickly. But the concern was still not to have it so high that mattresses start ending up on the side of the road again. So we're going to try this fee with the board's approval, but we'll monitor it as well too and see, kind of how it's going and if we need to take any further actions. We don't want it so high that people avoid going there, but we don't want to, be losing a lot of money either. And a lot of the companies where you buy mattresses will take them back, so we're hoping that that'll help alleviate a lot of the diversion as well too. So we'll give it a try and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
They extended the grant. We had it for a year, and they extended a year. So we've been I think going on 2.5 or plus years with this program, and it's people have gotten used to the $5. So I know it'll be a sticker shock, but we had to do something to try to up those costs.
It was good while it lasted. I mean, we took advantage of it, and it was a benefit to the town to get such a low fee, So, yeah.
Okay, is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Next item is the Clinton High School Class of 2019 Senior Yearbook Donation Request. Clinton High School Class of 2019 is requesting a donation from local organizations to support the production of their senior class yearbook. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we make a donation to the 2019 Senior Yearbook. Whatever we donated to prior classes in the past, I don't know.
Second.
What we donated last year.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to make a donation to the 2019 Senior Yearbook Fund in the same amount as we made to the 2018 Senior Yearbook Fund. Is there any discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Scholarship and Enrichment Foundation donation request. The Clinton Public Schools Scholarship and Enrichment Foundation is requesting donations from local organizations to support scholarships to local high school students for their college education expenses. So, and I assume they're asking for a donation from us?
Yes, usually annually, they present this to the selectmen and
Okay.
ask to try to, they fundraise and put into, then they have a board that reviews applications and gives out the scholarships to the graduating class.
So what's the pleasure of the board with regard to this request?
Motion to approve the request in the amount that we put in previous years.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to donate the same amount this year as we have in previous years. Is there any discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. And I would just say that the senior class will be asking other organizations in town for donations for these very worthy events, and we hope that people respond affirmatively. Any other, well, wait a minute, goals and objectives is under old and new business, okay. Goals and objectives, any goals and objectives discussions?
I think, Mr. Chair, the one from the last meeting was maybe about establishing a sidewalk maintenance and winter maintenance subcommittee. And the board wanted the board to think about
that's right,
that
Joe.
for this meeting here.
That's right, Joe. What did we have to do, decide who's gonna be on it?
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was like a
We have
Like
any
a-
volunteers?
Yes,
DPW or
please
something
put me
from
at the top of the list,
DPW.
Mr. Chair.
the other gentleman, and, okay. Yeah.
Mr. Kerrigan has volunteered, anyone else? I'll sit down, I'll do it with Mr. Kerrigan. If you- Put me down, I'll try to,
Make people work for a living.
I'll try to fit it in. So with the permission, well, if someone would make a motion to appoint myself and Mr. Kerrigan?
I'll
Mr.
ma-
Chairman, I would say the chairman is the appointing authority. for-
Indeed.
Oh, that's
It's
right,
a
Joe.
subcommittee,
Yeah.
yes, it's true.
All right, so I'm appointing myself and Mr. Kerrigan.
I'll be in touch.
Makes me feel powerful when I do that. I was trying to be humble. Any other goals and objectives discussion? Being none, any other old and new business?
Committee reports? Committee reports?
Oh, I'm sorry. Committee
at the-
reports. Are there any committee reports?
Do you want to do them, Mark? or-
You can, if you'd like, yeah.
Mr. Chair, the Marketing and Communications Subcommittee met on March 26th. We're continuing to work on a few things. First up, which I've covered before, but just want to remind people that we're having a townwide cleanup day on Saturday, May 18th, in advance of the Memorial Day Parade from 9 to 12. If you're interested in helping out in general, if there's a part of town that you or your civic or youth group or school group or anybody wants to focus on, please let me know. You can email me at skerrigan@clintonma.gov. I don't want to step on your toes, but the Cable Committee met
Sure.
last night too. In addition to looking at the contract, which is at the end of the year, we wanted to reaffirm our need for volunteers. We'd like to expand the coverage of certainly municipal meetings, and we can't do that without help. So if you're interested, if you're watching, and you're interested in more coverage or interested in just learning more about AV technology, we certainly have the equipment and the know-with-all to train you. We just need people who are interested and willing to help out. So again, if you want to email me at skerrigan@clintonma.gov, we'll put you in touch with the right people.
Okay, any other committee reports? Any other old or new business?
Just under old and new business, Mr. Chair, before we adjourn, I'd just like to make an announcement out there, for everyone out there, that I will not be seeking a fifth term for re-election for the Board of Selectmen. Things have come up in the past year where possibly some new things on the horizon. I didn't want to, if I was going to run and be blessed enough to serve again, elected, I didn't want to have to, down the road somewhere, have to give up my seat because of job responsibilities, those type of things. So I just wanted to let the people out there know that, the board know that, and appreciate this board. I think Mike echoed that earlier. I've been on numerous select boards, and this is one of the probably the most efficient ones I've been a part of, and very very healthy debate, so I appreciate the board members that I've served with in the past 6 years, and Jimmy LeBlanc as well, who has been off the board now for a couple years. And so I just wanted to let people out there know that I'll be moving on after, June 5th, I think is our 10th, would be our town meeting, so I'll be moving on after the election. Yes, that's right. Town meeting's the 3rd, I believe. Huh? Okay, so just want to let everyone out there know that, and I appreciate the board's support and town administrators and town administrator support through the years, and as well as town solicitor and administrative assistant Joyce Cobracero as well. But I'll be here you got me for a couple more months, so I'll do my list of thank yous and everything else at the end, but just wanted to let people out there know that and appreciate the support through the years.
Well, thank you for having the consideration to let people know. I mean, it will give them an opportunity people to decide who might want to run. I mean, it's always relevant if an incumbent is not running. So thank you for being, considerate of the taxpayers. And there's no other old and new business. That concludes the business of the agenda for this evening. Certainly, we would like to, finally bid our friend, Mr. Sargent, a fond farewell, and we'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, you're out of luck, Duffy. You came late,
Wait,
You're out
you
of-
need to reset your priorities, Mr. Duffy.
329 High Street is gonna
Planning
be.
board or selectmen?
No, we were all set. We approved it.